everybody, it's Michelle LaVore and
Devin LaVore
coming at ya. And we're so glad that you're here and we're here. I just feel like it's been a long time since we've done a video. It's been a little over a week, and it's just kind of, I don't know, it's good to just be able to share what God has, but He has had us in a place of just letting things kind of play out. We were going to do our video yesterday, but it was clear that it was just rest.
Well, we're going to do we wanted to do a video during the week, like, we have to do this video.
Yeah.
And the Lord's like, no.
Just save it.
I'm doing a stew here. I'm just going to wait. We'll add it all in the Act 2 scene 34.
Yes, which is what we're doing today.
I'm like, all right, well, this is, and the more we were going to film even yesterday, and the Lord was like, no, time to rest. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess this isn't going to be coming out till Tuesday then. It's like, well, it's not the first time.
Hey, there was just, sometimes when you cook a stew, you just have to let it sit. And,
yeah, you got to turn it off the heat and just let it sit
marinate
in the roux.
And it's delicious when you finally get to eat it. But yeah, so we're going to be doing
hopefully this will be delicious.
Yes, our Act 2, Scene 34. And before we begin, as always, though, we want to give a huge thanks to everyone who continues to give to us and has given to us. And, because we are support-based, so it's just super huge thank you to all of you. And
particularly with all the craziness going on with mandates and people dropping out of work because they won't take the mandate, which I'm totally cool with, but it's just like there's just a financial storm going on right now, you know what I mean? And so it's like, wow, look at the Lord. He says He will sustain you in drought, and it's like He's definitely sustained us. I feel like we've been in a drought for 4 years, 5.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
But yeah, He continues to just keep us.
Yeah.
And so huge thank you to all of you. And if you would like to give to us, you can. We have a PayPal link and a Cash App link below, and you can just click those.
Yes.
So I guess we'll just go ahead and dive on in. So it's just been
it's been a time.
It has been a time.
I had to throw that in there. It's been a time.
It's been a really, I feel like, a jam-packed last week as far as everything that the Lord has been speaking, even like what is going on in the nation. There has just been so much to this stew that God has been doing, but like truly, like I would say the main ingredient or spice of this week has been time. And
sorry, parsley, sage, and rosemary.
Yeah.
It's just not your time.
Anyway.
But I'm the shroom. Anyway.
But anyway. But yeah, so I thought this was so interesting as I was preparing. Just for me, I get my little notes for the video. I love seeing how God just kind of moves and works, and how, like, when you're in it, you might not really see these patterns that He's doing, but you move back and it's like, what? This is crazy. So Sunday morning, our very first God time, we were talking about how nothing is impossible. And it just went from there as far as just like we read a prophetic word that we actually had read the previous week. But God just brought it back up about the tipping point.
Oh, yeah, the Angie Stolba, if I'm saying her name properly.
Yeah, and so, but really, like, one of the main highlights was just, like, nothing is impossible. And literally, so it's like bookends. So at the end of this week, was not even thinking about Sunday, because quite honestly, so much of the time, I feel like that word was spoken like a year ago. Like,
you can forget morning's God time by nighttime God time. And be like, wait, what did we talk about this morning? Oh my word, this totally fits right in.
And I can't tell you how many times, like, at the end of the week, we're going back through the notes, or I'm going through the notes and I'm talking to you about it, and you're like, that was this week? That was this week. And it was like,
wait, that was this morning?
Yeah, exactly.
That was last night? Wow.
It's like, man.
Yeah.
But we ended the very end of this week, we ended up talking about time and in and the word impossible, and how basically to have like basically like that time.
You do need this, don't you?
I do. It says,
don't consider
something impossible because of the time frame, is what God really started speaking to us about, or finished the week off. And it was just like, I was just kind of amazed that we start off with like nothing is impossible, and we end with like don't consider something impossible because of the time frame. And throughout this entire week, God has been speaking about time, and and so some of the things I was just going to go through some of the things that God spoke to us about time, and then we're also going to put in maybe a few of the other things that God spoke to us throughout this week. Did you have anything in particular? We can talk about any of these.
No, you got it, man.
Okay.
Just go ahead. I'll just double dutch this one.
One of the things that God was just bringing up in time was just this idea of transformation in an instant, and it's a suddenly. And I was really looking at, it was pretty amazing just throughout this whole week. I mean, looking at time. I was looking at the beginning of Genesis is where time began, where God created time. There was morning, or there was evening, and there was morning, day 1 through 7. And,
well, can I say something on that? And the funny thing is, how it started was just we just kept seeing the word time, and it would highlight. So it's not always just a prophetic number.
Yeah.
It's just the word time. It would just keep popping out, and it would be like, time, That's kind of what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah.
And then also the word place just kept just coming out like, wow, what is the Lord speak? Is he speaking about a time and a place? It's like, what's going on? But then it developed more into time than anything else. And not only that, but a lot of other prophetic voices, or not a lot, but a couple other prophetic voices were talking about time as well.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I just felt like the Lord was just speaking to me about time and timing. And I'm just like, wow, we're definitely hearing a communique from the Spirit. So
yeah. Well, and that was actually, we, basically Hanukkah started on Sunday evening, and we ended up actually listening to a video about Hanukkah and just kind of learning about it. But
the miracle of time. It
really was. It was this miracle. That what made it a miracle? Well, they had, I guess, oil that should have only lasted one night, and it ended up lasting 8 nights. And so there was that sense of time, that it was the length of time that made it miraculous. Yeah. And so really that was kind of the heart of so much of what God was showing me about time, in the sense that time itself can be the factor that determines if something can be a miracle or not. Not that that's the only factor, but just how there is this, it's either like, well, something lasted way longer than it should have. There are many examples of that, as far as when Elijah was staying with the woman at Zarephath. Yeah. The food did not run out. It should have run out, but it did not the entire time that he was with her. You can see, like this example of the oil lasting a really long time.
For Hanukkah.
And so there are those kinds of instances where the miracle, like the sun standing still, that allowed the Israelites to win the battle. It gave them that time they needed to have the enemy defeated. Yeah. And so, but then there are instances where it's because the miracle is such a short amount of time that it's a miracle, It's like, wow, this person was instantly healed. Jesus, like pretty much every miracle that he had as far as like healing people, it was instantaneous. Yeah. And so it was just like the leper was healed instantly.
Well, how about the water to wine? It's like that wine was so good. It's like, dang, has this been aged like 20 years? This stuff's amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So God was just kind of showing me there is just that sense of a suddenly, a transformation in an instant. And that's like one of those time things where it's just like instantly the leper was healed, or shall a nation be born in a day? There was an instantaneous nation that was birthed, and that happened. Many people just with the fulfillment of that word being when Israel was recognized as a nation, and it was literally just like in one day, hey, let's sign these papers, you're now a nation, and it's like, what? That just happened? I thought, so there's
talk about the time between the word spoken and the fulfillment. It's crazy.
Yeah. And so there was just kind of, the Lord was speaking to that, of just knowing like there can be instant transformation. And then I was really ended up kind of looking into just the days of creation again, and just thinking about, like, the Lord was talking about, I believe, just that literal time. He was saying there was evening and there was morning one day, and that it's like, think of everything that he created in that one day. And just how, for example, with like the plants and everything, it's like there was probably if you think of time elapse, like when you can watch those videos where it's like, watch this plant grow, and they show
52 days worth of growth in like 3 minutes.
Yeah, and you're just like, whoa. So imagine like the whole planet, like God's just like growing all this vegetation up super quickly. And it was just like, that's just so amazing. And so it was just like, look at what God can do, that he's created just this world where there is time, and he works through times, but he also doesn't need time to do what he wants to do. And so it was just interesting. It was a really interesting thing throughout this whole week that God was showing me. And then we were also like directed towards, or looked into, reminded of all of the time twos. This is from Ecclesiastes 3, 2 through 8. And there again, it's like there's a time to be born and a time to die, and it just goes through. There's literally 28 different time twos.
In Ecclesiastes
3, 2
through 8?
Yeah.
Seriously now?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
anyway.
And so basically you could almost basically put them on like 14 on one side, 14 on the other, as far as
they're kind of like opposites.
Yeah. Basically.
Time to live, time to die.
Yeah.
Time to embrace, time to not embrace.
Yeah. And but again, God was just highlighting those to us this week, and just speaking to, there is a time there. I feel like, really this time we've been here in Nashville, like our kind of this wilderness time for us, it has been a time to die, like a dying to yourself, and really just allowing the Lord to break things down. It's been a time to give up, or like to not give up, like let go of things, and
to not embrace.
Somebody
I was texting with someone last night, and they were like, don't you miss, like, I know God's got you guys going through this different thing right now, but don't you like miss fellowship with church and stuff? So I was like, oh my gosh, like all the time. Like we long to embrace that again, but the Lord's like, no, this is a time to not embrace that. And he's like made it super clear, and it's just like all of those wilderness type things have been going on. I mean, I tell you what, with every relationship we've had that the Lord has allowed us to have, it's all fizzled and died. Every one that we've had. And it's like, that's why I'm really hesitant to get involved. when people want to start communicating with us, I'm like, oh no, you're coming in. That means you're going to die in our life at some point. You know what I mean? That's a Devin Hart thing. But it's like everyone, they come in, and there was one that was there for a while, and we were kind of more ministering to them, but it was still a relationship of give and take, and it was just really cool. And then it died. I mean, it died like shot in the head. Died. Is that too PG-13 for some of you? Sorry.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, like that's just been the nature of it. And then God's like, that's what I'm taking you through those things. I'm taking you through a variety of all these different time to mourn, time to grieve, time to die, time to let go, a time to sow. That means you're not reaping. You see what I'm saying? There's a time to sow, and then there's a time to reap. The sowing is you know what the sowing is? The sowing is the speaking the word. Oh, well, you spoke the word. Now you got to wait for it to develop. The sowing is hearing prophetic words. The sowing is praying and praising and building in the spirit things you can't see in the natural. That's the time we've been in for sure.
Yeah.
It's a
time to tear.
Oh, come on now.
And then,
well, what's the one about like the gathering stones?
Yeah.
Whatever the opposite of that one is.
Yeah. Scattering stones.
It's like time to scatter or whatever. And I'm just like, Lord, why do you have us going through this? It doesn't even matter. As long as you know the Holy Spirit and He is leading your life, He's the only one you're really accountable to. I know the scripture says be subject to one another, and that can be done. Even in the situation we're in, we're submitted to one another. When we talk to other people, we submit, we listen, we go, okay, in Christ. But it's like, ultimately, God is the judge. He lifts up one and brings down another. And it's like some people are called to go, some people are called to stay, and they're both important. But it's like what is the purpose of all these things? It's like the Lord's like, I'm just doing something different. I'm doing something different. And it's like with a lot of people, not just with us, but with other people. He's just doing a different thing. And in order for God to do something different, then He has to do something different. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You can't be doing the same old, and be like, oh, I'm just doing a different thing. I'm doing a new thing. And so, yeah, but you were talking about the other time twos.
Yeah, so
because that's what was highlighted to me recently.
Yeah, it's just like the time to be born and the time to be healed, the time to sow in the sense of sowing, mending what was torn.
The SEW.
And this time to reap. It was just like
time to gather
time
stones.
to laugh.
Yes.
And so it's like that opposite time where you have just this season and time of your life where God's like, the old is gone, the new has come. And that new is a time of rejoicing and just growing in Him in a new way. And even in Hosea chapter 6, it talks about, there was a breaking down, but then it's like the Lord only tears and breaks down so that He can mend and bind up. And He told us that for 3 years, basically, like, this is what I'm doing in you, this is what I'm doing. And then, of course, that time frame of things kind of came and went. I was like, forget this time frame stuff. And now here we are making a video about time. Well, and I think that's actually one of the important things when it comes to time, is that time does not remove what God has promised.
Nope. Just
because you thought, like, if you think, oh, should have happened at this time, but it didn't. I think, it was interesting because I was listening to a few videos with like the Elijah list. Actually, it was what is his name? Hank
Kuhneman?
I think
is that what his name?
Yeah, I think and he was on the Elijah list, and I just happened to like click on it, and he was talking, and literally I've already been really dived into like all this time thing, and I clicked on it. It was already partially through the video. It was a live feed, and I click on it, and he's talking about time and prophetic timing in particular. And it was just like the importance of like, just knowing like there are times when God gives a specific time and things like that, but otherwise it's just like, hey, you just need to allow the Lord to develop it. And he gave an example where he had given a prophetic word. It was like in September. He was in September, and he said like, this thing is going to happen in January. Now he personally said he did not say like this January. He just felt it was going to happen in January. And so January came and went, and nothing had happened. But the following January, the very thing he prophesied came to pass.
Well, that's like the Mark Taylor, Donald Trump's going to be president thing. And then, 2012 rolled around, and Donald Trump starts to go, and he's like, I'm gonna try. But then he bowed out. And then Mark was like, I must have totally heard wrong. He was in depression for days. And the Lord was like, let's go back to that word. Let's go back to it. And then the next term, he actually ran and won.
Yeah.
And I bet he felt so good, just from a personal prophetic perspective. The 3 P's. I bet he felt so amazing, to see that, like just for your own heart, because, when you're walking with the Lord and you're trying to hear from God, you're just doing the best you can to walk humbly with God. You're doing, let's say you're just doing everything right. You're dotting your I's and you're crossing your T's. Sometimes you're crossing your I's and dotting your T's, and you gotta you gotta switch things up. But it's like you're not trying to promote yourself. You're just trying to, and it's the Lord himself who pushes you forward. It's the Lord himself that says, hey, go do this, and hey, go do that, and people will see it, and I don't care. I want them to see it. And it's him doing it. You know what I mean? Even in the midst of that, you're saying some scary stuff sometimes. You're just saying some scary stuff, and you're just like, man, I hope that's right.
Yeah.
I hope that's right. And then that's what's going on inside of you as the speaker. You're going, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the Lord's like, no, stand up. Prophesy it with confidence. And you're prophesying it with confidence, to the people or to the camera. But inside you're going, oh, Jesus. Oh, Lord. Sometimes. Not all the time. But sometimes, when it comes to that sensitive stuff. And, so I bet for him, when Donald Trump actually ran and won, he was just like, wow. He was like, see? So it's like for him with that word, the January.
Yeah.
But
and so really he was talking prophetic timing and that sort of thing, and I know for us personally, like the time frame has been kind of the Achilles heel in the sense that not God has really led us through this journey blind. We a lot of times.
Can you say that again? I'm just kidding.
God reveals after or at the very end of something he's taking us
when
through.
The time frame doesn't even matter.
Yeah. But it's like throughout it, if you were blind and you're being led through something and maybe you can feel things around, your mind is automatically going to start thinking like, oh, maybe this is this, that you're trying to put things together.
Yeah.
That's just how we work. And so we have to be very aware of that as believers, of just like, okay, when God is speaking, we want to understand. And so, and it can be hard to be in a place where you don't understand. And it's like, what does this mean? Where are you taking us? What are you doing? And so you can start to try and fill things in. And as you keep going, you realize, oh, well, that fill-in was not right. Like, this is actually something totally different.
Especially if you're something really exciting.
Yeah.
And it's just like you're being led blind, but you're feeling wet rocks. Oh, wet rocks, and it feels kind of damp in the air, and and there's a waterfall. Whoa, the Lord told me about the cave and the waterfall, and this has got to be it. Yay, we're here, we're here. And it's just like, and you just can't keep on walking. Like, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
What happened, Lord? I thought, wasn't that it? Wasn't that it? I felt the wet rocks in the waterfall. I heard it. It was just like, what's going on? What's happening? Now I'm just feeling dust and sand hitting my face. What is this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, oh man.
Yeah. But there's a reason why God has kept us blind in that area in particular.
To depend on Him.
Exactly.
Trust in Him only.
And I believe that God is going to start moving even through us in being able to have more of a sense of His timing and when He wants things to happen.
Because we paid the price of blindness.
Yeah. And that is actually something that even the Lord brought up this week. He again was saying, like, the first gift of the wedding, if we are in a time of the wedding day. For us, I believe it began on basically the Feast of Tabernacles of this year, which would have been September 20th or 21st, somewhere around there, 2021. And it was just this sense of like, hey, this is the wedding day. And it is the season, it's the day, a day, timing again, it's a day, but really by that God is meaning a season of time. Of where it's like, this is like a wedding day where you're going to get married. And
there's all these different events that take place in it. And, even during that day, there's waiting for certain things to happen. And
But he was talking about how the first gift of the wedding is to see.
Yep.
And that's the first gift that he's like, I'm going to give this gift to you, and it's to see.
Yep.
And for, there's maybe traditional where the bride and the groom don't see each other until she's walking down the aisle. But even there, it doesn't matter if it's pre-wedding or during the wedding, the first gift really is to see. You see each other. And the groom sees his bride walking down the aisle, and the bride sees her groom up at the front waiting for her. And so it's that sense of like, that first gift is to see. And
see the glory of God. Starting with His own face.
Yeah. And so I personally think part of that for us will be God is going to allow us to see things further
to see
ahead,
what's been hidden.
See what's been hidden, to see
some of the things that we've been blinded to, that we've wanted to see.
Yeah,
that we wanted to understand.
And I think including time in the time frames, of just like having a sense of where we're at before we get there. It will be kind of the opposite of where we've been, where it's been a lot of post. Like honestly, even as we go through our weeks, a lot of times it's at the end of the week that we realize, oh, look at what God's been doing all week.
Yeah, as you're going through it, you're just like a cow. You're just eating the grass. You're just taking it all in. You're mowing it in, and then you're chewing on it throughout the week. And then later on, you're like, oh, is that what we just ate?
Yeah. Oh, that's what you were doing?
That's what's going on?
Oh,
wow.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, and kind of going with the idea of the first gift is to see. God was actually also really bringing out this part about exposure for us, and really the idea being that God is continuing to expose things, meaning He's continuing to uncover
things in the heart.
And
that He doesn't want there.
And so, but through that, He's like, now He's uncovering so that He can cover. And just like this idea of Him being able to wash our hearts, and and for us to be clean before him.
Yeah.
But it was really cool because we ended up talking about just this with our kids. You gave this example, which I thought was really good. We were talking about seeing the glory of God.
Mm-hmm.
And God wants us to, when he does open our eyes and we see, he wants us to be able to take in the fullness of his glory as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And so in order for us to receive his glory and to be able to really see it, we have to have hearts that are actually open before him and exposed
Uncovered.
before him.
Yeah.
And just like Adam and Eve, it said that they were naked, but they were unashamed. They were completely exposed, but they were covered by the glory of God.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking about that with the kids of just how, God exposes things, but if we hide from that exposure and we don't allow the Lord to work in those places, his glory is going to come, but those areas are not going to see it. And much like, if you were to put a blanket over a person,
Mm-hmm.
you could turn all the lights on, and yes, they should be, when the lights are dark, everything's dark. But it's like, okay, the light representing the glory of God comes on, but if they're still under the blanket, yes, they can tell something has changed, but they're not really receiving the fullness of it.
They can't see much.
They're not.
Want me to tell it?
Yes.
Because what I did is I had this blanket that Michelle has. It's funny. It's the peace.
Yeah.
The godly peace blanket or whatever we got from Walmart. It's like I just put it on my head and I was like, turn on the lights. And it's like, oh, can you still see the light? I put it on some kids. It's like, can you still see the light? I'm like, yeah. I was like, can you see anything else? No. And I'm like, bookmark that. And then I put it on my head like a kind of a shroud where I could see maybe that much.
Mm-hmm.
And if I did like this, I could see stuff clearly, but I could see more than the person that was completely covered.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, can you see? Well, yeah, bookmark that. And then I just threw the blanket off of me. And I'm just here, naked and exposed. I did have my clothes on. Anyway. And I'm just like, what can I see now? It's like, well, you can see everything. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's your 30, 60, 100-fold right there. And it's like the more God's saying, because it was a prophetic word that came with the prophetic example. He's like, God's saying, the more you allow me to uncover the things that you don't want uncovered, the more I'm going to be able to cover them with my glory and my mercy and all that. But by resisting me, by not cooperating with me, by telling me that what I'm exposing in your life is not true, or it's a misunderstanding, well, you're going to miss out. You're going to miss out on the things that you actually want because you're afraid to look at yourself, or you're afraid to look at things that you don't want to admit about yourself are true. And it's something the Lord shared with me a long time ago. I mean, I must have been only a year or two old in the Lord. And the Lord told me one time, he's like, Devin, I can't cover what you don't uncover. And I remember when he first said it, I was like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, what are you talking about? And he showed me, he's like, you're covering it yourself. Mm-hmm. It's like, take it off and I'll show you how I cover it. Mm-hmm. And the Lord was like, and he would share with me stuff like, Devin, I can't defend you if you're going to defend yourself. You got to choose your defender.
Yep.
I can't provide for you if you're going to take the rings and I'm going to provide for myself. It's like, if you're going to use your power and your might, you will not experience the glory of my spirit. Mm-hmm. And that was very early on, 1 or 2 years old in the Lord, for real. I was just like, all right, well, I'm done trying. Forget it. It feels so it feels so wrong to do that. Mm-hmm. But it's like, it's absolutely the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. Just throw yourself completely on the Lord and just let him do it. And it's like, even on this journey in December of 2016, we were like, are we going to jump or are we going to stay in the plane? Because that plane is probably going to land and the Lord's going to okay, well, let me take you over this way then. Yeah. Let me put you on the food line or something,
No, really.
Since you don't want to do it, but we jumped and it was like, here we are.
Yeah.
Still descending. We ain't even opened our parachute yet.
Yeah, around about this time, it was definitely a wrestling time for me in my heart.
In 2016. Yep, it was. You were like, you want me to quit my job?
Well,
but I'm
and
the only one working.
This is not something that, I mean, it's already something we had been talking with the Lord for months.
Yeah, for real.
But
it wasn't just a spur of the moment prophetic word.
But it was definitely, the time had come for me to make that choice. Which way am I going to go? And it just, my heart was just twisted in knots. And I was just like, Lord, it was a wrestling. I think it was like my Jacob moment. I was just wrestling with the Lord. And then
you still limping from that.
I know, for real.
You'd be like, I should have worked. I should have kept working. I should have kept working. It's like, we wouldn't be in this financial condition if I kept working. Like, girl, yes, we would have.
Yeah.
Whatever a little bit of money you would have made, that stuff would have been gone in 3-6 months.
Yeah.
And then we would have been right here, right here.
But it's just that, and so we have those moments, and it was just like, well, Lord, truly in that time, it was just like, Lord, I want you, and so I'm going.
I'm gonna jump out.
And it was, I put in my 2 weeks, and it was like, all right.
But there was no fear in it. That's what's so interesting. That's when you know it's the Lord, because there was no fear in it. There was no terror. There was no, don't do it. You're wrong. Don't. There was none of that.
No.
It was just so much peace. Mm-hmm. It was just like.
After the wrestling.
Yeah.
And the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
We had peace.
Yeah.
But it really was. I mean, it was just definitely a time with the Lord. And there was a time where it was just like, are you going to go now or not?
Because there's a window. Mm-hmm. It's like, you need to jump. You know?
Yeah. And so, again.
Because you don't want to have the plane, it's going to be flying over the ocean here in a minute. That's not the time to jump.
No. Well, and see, now that's an important part. There are moments in our life where God is like, it is the time is now. Mm-hmm. Like, jump. Or for you, there was the going to YWAM. It was just like, this is your season and time.
September 1998.
For me personally, actually in 2014, God really, it was a dream of mine to run a half marathon, and it was just like the Lord put it on my heart, like, this is the time, and it was the window, and I was. If you didn't take it, literally, I would not, like, to this day,
you would not have been
able to do it, because it was literally like the perfect time for me to have this dream be accomplished. And basically that's what ended up happening. I trained for it and was able to actually run it, and that was in September of 2014. But then from December of that year through till now, there would have been no time or place for it. And God knew, like, this is your moment. This is when this needs to happen. And it was just very clear at that time what he would, like, hey, why don't you do this? Here's an inspiration. Go do this. And so that kind of actually brings us into...
Well, hold on.
Oh.
That kind of leads us, though. Let's go full circle back to the exposure.
Yes.
Because the Lord was talking about just, you got to let me do what I want to do. Mm-hmm. The heart that is willing to let the Lord just do what you want to do, the heart that's willing to jump out there, and the heart that's willing to say, hey, you can throw us in the furnace all you want. I'm not bowing down to the image. That's the heart, man. That's the heart that's going to see the glory of God. Mm-hmm. A heart that won't do, like, the simple things, like a heart that won't let the Lord reveal and expose and get you into the mud and wrestle with you and show you some things about yourself that are not cool. You're never going to see the glory of God. That's the kind of heart that's going to resist anyway. That's the kind of heart that's not going to jump. That's you know what I'm saying? It's like you're not going to see it, and it's like, there have been like many prophetic words that are from the Lord to people. You can even see it in scripture, but I'm talking about like even in my own life. Hey, this is what the Lord wants to do. The Lord wants to do that. The Lord wants to do this, but they don't cooperate with the prophetic word, and so it doesn't happen, and then they get mad. It's like, well, you got to cooperate in order for the word to happen. You can't just be like, I'm gonna just do what I want to do and live how I want to live, and I'm gonna expect this word from God to happen. Well, that's never gonna happen. You know what I mean? So it's like, it really does. But it's like I think the exposure, and then you learn in the exposure that you were afraid of a certain response. That's why you tried to cover and protect yourself, when really if you open up and expose yourself and go, oh, I'm gonna expose, you're just gonna see what your fear is not going to be there. What you're going to actually see is a smiling, happy Jesus face, ready to have mercy and compassion on you, and remove that thing that's messing you up or messing up your life, or you know what I'm saying? That's what but you have to overcome the fear that's telling you, oh, this is what's going to happen if you expose yourself, or if you get exposed, or you got to overcome that. And it's like that fear is telling you something. So really, a lot of times when you're not submitting to the exposure of the Lord, you're basically obeying fear. You're obeying something, and it's like, so there's just a huge benefit. And then that opens you up to be one of those 100-fold see the glory of God kind of people,
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what God's been doing this whole journey. He's like, I am preparing you, and he's been preparing just the remnant of people.
That's a big time to exposure.
To see his glory, and it's like, in order for God's, it's like, in order for us to receive, he's like, I want you to be able to receive as much of my glory as you possibly can, so I need to prepare you to receive it, because there is a time, there is a moment in which God's like, my glory is coming down. It's falling down.
Well, and a little leaven leavens the whole lump. It's one of the things the Lord was telling me yesterday. He was like, I'm getting it all out.
Yeah.
It's like, but I want you to have hearts that are willing to be sensitive to exposure times, and just okay, I hear the instruction and correction, and I'm going to make the changes I need to make by your help and your grace and your spirit. Because you can't even, if the Lord exposes something but doesn't give you the power to overcome it, well, that's just going to be that's not even reality. No. You know what I mean? He just doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So.
But also, I wanted to just hit on something
else. More
else.
Vegetables?
Yeah.
Some vegetables?
That the Lord...
Some potatoes in the stew?
Yeah. But what the Lord was talking to us about, and this goes into the idea of time, it is time for desires. Not necessarily a word... It's basically, there is a set time for certain desires to take place.
Yeah.
And so, like we were talking about, with those examples of the running or you going to YWAM, there are set times that God has. And he reminded me of something that we actually had received last year, where we were having these visions of us being on a party bus with the Lord. And he basically was saying, like, I'm telling you that I have the itinerary. We're on this party bus, but I have the itinerary. And on my itinerary is just
his time frame. His time frame
of when things are going to come on the party bus. It's no different. He's like, it really is. He's the driver of the bus, but he's the director. He's the entertainer of this bus.
I think we were doing puzzles back then.
We were, yeah. It was when we started all of this. I think we're still probably on the party bus. It's like
we're on the bus. We're on the bench. We're in a restoration play. We're in a delivery room after a pregnancy promise process is Act 2 scene somewhere. I'm lost. You know what? Sometimes I think the Lord does that on purpose. When you're following the Lord, there's going to be so much godly stuff going on in your life, you won't be able to keep up. And it keeps you in a place of just trusting the Lord. Yeah.
In a place of humility.
The first couple signs and wonders the magicians in Egypt could mimic, but after the fifth one, they're like, we're done. We can't keep up with this. This is God. We need to repent, all of us. Yeah. They might have been Jews who they turned Jew. They became Jew, and they're like, we're going with you guys because this is crazy.
Yeah. But
Probably
yeah,
not.
but basically though, the idea was that he was the one in charge of when things were going to come on the bus, how they were going to come. It was just like, he's like, I have the itinerary.
Yeah.
But with that, it was this sense of, let your hearts be at peace, because I know every desire you have. I have a time for it. He's not showing us the time, but it's like, hey, I have a time for these desires to be fulfilled. If you would just trust me with the desires of your heart, I will bring about the desires in my time. And we have to know that when he fulfills it, it's the best possible time of fulfillment.
Yeah.
You know, even if it doesn't match up with maybe what we think. I know for myself, I'm always thinking, like, we have so many different things that God has spoken to us, and I think about, like, oh, well, this would be a good time for this to happen, and then maybe this could happen here, and I've got, like, all these ideas in my head, and the Lord...
It's like, because you don't want to be in this place in winter, so that can't happen.
Yeah, you don't want that. Yeah, like this needs to happen at this time, and that needs to happen over. Okay, that would be
so then the Lord needs to move
Lord.
Right here, right in this little time frame section right here.
So Lord,
and
what do you think of
comes
mine?
And goes, and it's like, well, we're done. Have no idea what's going to happen now.
Yeah. But the idea is that God's like, just trust my timing. And quite honestly, even just this week, there were a couple, and last night even, God just threw some things in my lap that I was like not expecting, or just like
Lord, that's way ahead of time.
Yeah, that's not supposed to, you know, like I thought this would be later down the road, you know, and God's just like
the plan destroyer.
Yeah. Well, and that's really where, when it comes to the times for desires, the fulfillment of it is trusting his timing, and just trusting that he knows what he's doing. He knows when to bring things about, because he knows what it's going to do. It's not, sometimes what God brings into our life, it's not so much about the thing that he brought into our life as much as what it's doing for our hearts. And last night, we were, you know, God literally gave like a word where he was speaking to me of like, well, what he wants to do is going to bring a lot of restoration to my own heart. And
it's a gift.
Yeah, the gift that he wants to give, he's like, it's going to bring, you don't even understand like the kind of restoration it's going to bring to your heart. It's
like the Heidi Baker 2 cookies.
Exactly.
It's not really about the cookies. It's what the cookies did and what the cookie meant for her. Because she lives in an impoverished area and she ministers to impoverished people, and she's become one of them. And it's just like, but it also, you know, so you don't need a cookie. That's lavish. That's rich. And but it also... Go ahead. No, go ahead. What are you going to say?
Well, and she was also talking about just how she had spent so much of her life fasting.
To earn God's favor. And I think another thing that I was thinking about as far as like the time frame of things, it's like when we were doing we're, you know, still kind of also in this boat dock vision thing. So much stuff going on. So many different stories. It's like God, Jesus told so many different parables. I think we're living in about 7 of them right now. I don't know where they all connect, so he's going to have to be in charge of that too. But it was just like we're on the dock, you know, and there's this blessing, huge blessing we're waiting to have happen off to our left. And the Lord's like, all right, come on, guys, let's go. Off to our right, up the stairs, over to a city. I'm like, what? Wait, I thought. And then we go to the city. Literally the walk to the edge of the city took what, a week, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. And it's like we get there and we prophesy and we declare over the city. It's like, all right, cool. All right, let's turn around. Let's go back. let's returning to love. And then we sit on the bench, and
we've been there ever since.
And that's where we get that's where we transition into the getting our hair and our nails and makeup done ready for the wedding, and talking about all this stuff. And I'm just like, wow, that's crazy. This is how the fourth dimension works, isn't it? It just overlaps on itself, and it all makes sense when if you live in, from God's perspective. He's like, oh, this totally makes sense. This is awesome. It's like, but for us, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, that's the whole blindness part. Things will start to make sense too, So I just thought that was funny. It's like, that's the Lord being in charge of the itinerary.
Yeah, it really is. And him just bringing things on when he wants to bring things forward. And
for how long.
And just like, and when he gives a gift, why he gives the gift. And, which is funny because, sitting on the bench, a lot of what God has been doing is been speaking. He's given us gifts. He's, it's been about
spiritual gifts.
Prophetic
gifts. Things that will be happening.
And it's just like, wow, Lord, this is just amazing what you're doing. And
well, you were talking about the restoration and what the gift will do.
Yeah,
for you.
And just
that's what you were talking about.
We had a little interruption, and I was trying to remember what we were talking about.
That's what you were talking about.
But yeah, and just how really there are things that God's like.
See, that's the interruption right there. Okay.
I finished all my books, guys.
And so it's like, we might have an idea of like when something you would desire something or want it, but God's like, here, I want to bring this into your life now, because he knows the effect that it will have on your heart.
Yeah.
And you don't. He's, so much of the things that, with the Lord, it's like, well, Lord, this would be the good place for this. And we might have that whole idea, like I said earlier, about what we think would be good. But that's coming from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Well, and it's not coming from the tree of life. And God's like, hey, that I love your thinking, but if you just trust me, you're going to be so amazed by what I do.
I like that encouragement, though. I love your thinking, but just trust me.
Yeah.
I love that. It's not like you're wrong.
No, I think the Lord, I do. I mean, I think he loves like hearing our ideas, and he loves that because it means we're engaged with him.
Yeah, it's a reflection of us living with him.
But ultimately, it's like just, I love that idea, but just you wait and see. It's going to be so much better. Yeah. It's going to be so much greater.
Well, another example is just like, no, you know what? We've called on the Lord. We know him. He's going to come. He won't let Lazarus die. He's the Messiah. He's going to come. We know he's going to come. We're friends with his. We don't even hardly ask him for anything. But Lazarus is dying. We're going, no, you just wait. And then Lazarus died. And they're just like, what? Even they experienced the letdown of the Lord. And it's just like, I'm not gonna let you down. You're right. You should have held on to that confession of faith. I'm not gonna let you down. Here, let me show you what I mean. Oh, your time ran out? Mine didn't. Someone need to hear that. Yeah. I don't care if it's this right here, this man right here. It's like your time ran out. Mine didn't. God's like, I created everything. I'm the creator of time. I'm the creator of life. You know what I'm saying? It's like the Lord's like, my time didn't run out. You know what I'm saying? Abraham, Sarah, man, your time really ran out, didn't it? Not mine. Yep. By this time next year, you'll be holding a son. I'm just praying for this time this month. We need to, but no, that's God's timing, and my heart's getting out there. Oh, I'm so sorry. Anyway, sometimes that desire be flaring up, don't it? And you're just like, Lord, come on, man, come on. I'm going through contraction after contraction after contraction. Isn't there a baby yet? That's when the doctor comes in and be like, oh, you're only 5 centimeters. What? You a lie. The devil's a lie. It's like you ain't even 10 centimeters yet. It's like you're going through all this pain I ain't even halfway there. And I can't quit. It's like,
Yeah.
Too far along to get a C-section. You committed.
You
know what
mean
I'm
an epidural?
Or a C-section. Either one. You know what I'm saying? Because, sometimes it's too far along to...
Yeah.
You just have to go through it. It's like, you need the Lord for everything, you know? There's nothing wrong with that, so...
Yeah.
We better get off here, because...
We better.
This young man is like, I'm done.
He's done.
His time is up.
But yeah, so, I just pray that you guys are encouraged by what the Lord has shared today, just in regards to time. I know that it really is a huge topic, and it is something that you could probably spend an entire rest of your life learning about.
Wait.
There's
the thing that really, this is one of the videos I wanted to make in the middle of the week. It was like last Wednesday or something. I was like, we've got to do this video, because it was really encouraging to me that the Lord's like, at the right time, I'm going to move, and it's going to be like, boom. It's just going to be like that. And it's like, what's happening before my fingers are up, I'm ready to snap? What's happening in your life before that? Same stuff that always does. So you got to understand, it's going to be like, boom, boom. You know what I mean? It's going to be like, you're here 1 minute, boom, you're somewhere else the next.
Yeah,
just like that. There's not going to be some sort of, I just felt like the Lord was saying that to me. He's like, there's not going to be some sort of easygoing, transitional, this takes this much time and this takes this much time, and you're just waiting for... He's like, no, it's going to happen so quick, so fast. It's going to be like, boom, done. It's going to be like, gosh, we are so used to drought, and then all of a sudden, boom, downpour. Just deluge everywhere. We're soaking in water after being like, choking on dust for years.
Yeah, well, we had talked about...
But it was a suddenly.
Yeah.
And it's just like, so you got to wait for that and believe in that. And don't, stay in your lane, like Kay Nash was talking about recently. He's like, don't, stay right where you are, because that's where you're going to need to be.
Well, we were talking about also, like, with like a dam breaking.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, a lot of times, they don't even know that it's starting to break until it's breaking.
And it happens
so
so quick.
Suddenly and so fast, like a tidal wave coming in.
That's funny. Like, we were literally just watching that yesterday, weren't we?
Yeah, you were.
I was like, the five massive landslides caught on camera. And just all of a sudden, it's like, I was like, babe, watch this. She was doing research. And I'm like, watch this. And she's watching the roads there. And then all of a sudden, boom, the mountain just starts moving. The entire road's gone. Like, entire forest chunks of trees are just sliding down the mountain. And I'm like, wow. It's almost like the Lord's like, that's what I'm talking about. Just like that. Boom, done. Yeah. It's like the whole landscape is now changed. I feel the Lord on that one. The whole landscape of your life is about to change. When God comes in and he moves, and it's like, boom, suddenly the whole landscape is going to be utterly different. It's not going to take no millions and billions of years. It's going to be done instantaneously. It's going to be almost unrecognizable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. So it's like, so see, knowing that that's going to happen, let me continue doing what I'm doing while I'm doing it. And letting me expose, letting me uncover. And don't be afraid of the exposure. To the depth and level that you'll let me expose, that's the depth and level that you're going to see the glory. You want some little tiny foundation to build some little tiny little house on? Okay. I mean, if you want a whole city, you're going to need a foundation the size of a city. It's going to take a lot more time to do that. So,
yeah,
I'm out.
So basically that's really what we believe the Lord has for us to share this week about
So was that
time.
Stewish?
I think it was
stewish? Was it enough stew?
So before we get off
before we bail,
I just wanted to read Ecclesiastes 3 1 through 8 as just kind of a closing. So it says, "To everything there is a season and a time for every matter or purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted.
I hear that song going in my head now. A time to be born, a time to die. Oh, you don't know that song?
I have heard it.
I was about to say, man, is this a Lenny Kravitz moment? Anyway.
It says...
Now it's going to be in their head, too, whoever knows it.
It says, a time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up.
A time to sleep and a time to be awake. This ain't the time to be awake, bro. Interrupting our video. Anyway, go ahead.
Isaiah. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance.
Jeremiah 33:11.
A time to cast away stones.
That's it.
And a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to loose. A time,
Lose.
Oh, lose.
Not loose.
Oh, I
You know,
thought it
like
was
woman,
loose.
thou art loosed. No.
A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. Like mending. A time to keep silent and a time to speak.
Mm-hmm.
A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to pray. Father, I just thank you that you have every time is in your hands, Lord. And I thank you that you have a season and a time for each of us. Father, I thank you that you have just brought us through. You've taken us through a wilderness time, but you also have a time of promise and being in the promised land, Lord. You have a time to go from the graves into the garden.
Come on,
Lord,
now.
You, I just thank you that you are going to bring forth your people. You're going to resurrect your people back to life and bring them into a time of healing and peace and a time of laughter and dancing and building up. And Lord, I thank you that you are going
head?
to be.
Okay.
It's going to be a time of reaping and a time of just seeing you in just new and greater ways. And so I just pray that there would be healing for those who have been hurt by the times and time frames. And I just pray that your spirit would come in and just just bring revival and just a healing to their spirit and body, soul, and spirit. And so I just give you thanks and praise for everything that you're doing. And we just pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. I think that's it for now. So,
I think so.
We're gonna have to call it quits. Hope you guys enjoyed this little favor.
This little mini video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our videos are never many.
They're many.
They're M-A-N-Y, not M-I-N-I.
Do you want to say
So,
bye-bye?
you wanna say bye?
Bye.
Say thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Hope you were blessed.
Hope you were blessed.
All right. See ya.
So, bye-bye, guys. We love you.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate you. See you next video.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
But I have something to say.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, like, Revelation.
Oh, Revelation?
Mm-hmm.
You love doing that. He does that all the time. He just shares these words.
Yeah.
And you
let
think,
there be
oh, you're being
revelation.
cute. But it's like, wait a minute. You're not being cute. Even though you are cute, you're probably hearing something. But anyway, the revelation is that you should have taken a nap. So, bye, guys. Love ya.
Bye, guys.